And so, there is nothing to do. It is just to be here, just as you are. There is no teaching, no instruction, nothing that needs to happen. It is just to be here, just as you are. These words are for the being. These words are for the being to hear itself, remember itself, remember the simplicity, the openness, the emptiness of the essence nature. For the being itself to remember itself. For the being itself to be itself. And not tangled in the moving, changing play of experience. So there is nothing to do. It is just to be here. Being here, there is a simple felt sense of being. A felt sense of your own presence. Felt sense of simple existence, just as it is. The knowing that you are here, but not knowing what you are, who you are. Resting in the I don't know. The I that knows nothing, the true I. Resting in the I don't know. The I that knows nothing, the true I. The true I. When the I is not attached to a thought and identified with the story of me, the I is utterly free and knows nothing. This is the essence nature of all beings. And it is the being itself that is listening to these words, resonating in the remembering, alert in the recognition, all happening beyond the mind's understanding or ability to intervene in any way. And so it is just to be here so simply, so innocently, so openly, wanting nothing, needing nothing, just simply being. The being itself is silent, unmoving, unchanging. The being itself is still. It is the still, silent presence that just simply is. So we are just attuning to the resonance of the stillness, of the silence of being that always is, simple and free and whole. The true I is silence. You are not who you have believed yourself to be. You are not an individual at a localized point known as the body. That is not who you are. And in your innermost heart, there is the knowing of this. And the knowing of this is what leads us to seek for the whole truth, not fooled by partial truths, not fooled by misunderstandings, not fooled by the story and the play of the world. There is a deep, unfathomable knowing in the heart that truth can only ever be whole. There are no half-truths. It is either false or it is truth. Truth is not an idea. Truth is not a belief. It is not a concept. It is not a teaching. It is not something that the mind understands. Truth stands alone. It is simply who you are. It is the I without attachment. It is the simplicity of this moment with no story. This timeless moment with no story of past, no ideas about future, where all imaginings and stories dissolve into the now. There is presence. All that is here is presence. You can feel it as your own presence. And the felt sense of your own presence is presence itself. It is the one presence, the presence of being, the presence of grace, the presence of the divine, right here in this moment. Has nothing to do with the story of me, has nothing to do with intellectual understanding. You cannot think your way intellectually into freedom. It is only when the mind completely stops, utterly stops for a nanosecond, that there is this spaciousness to actually see yourself. Mind stops when presence is alert, when presence is enlivened. Mind stops, not as a doing, of course, because if we could stop mind, wouldn't we have done that already? Cannot stop mind, but in the heightened, enlivened presence of being, mind naturally gives way to the greater power, the power of being, the power of yourself, the power that is the great radiant light of the self shining, ever luminous, ever shining in and of itself, alone, ever free, not reliant in any way on world or story, utterly independent of all moving, changing, stands alone, the radiant heart that is yourself, the one being that is eternally free and infinitely open, boundless, silent, being, never touched, never tainted or disturbed in any way, always, always the silent depths of the ocean. Yes, so too, dancing as wave, but as wave, always knowing the essential nature as ocean, deep and silent and true and real. Reality is the simple truth of being, nothing more, nothing moving, nothing changing, nothing that you think it is. It is yourself without the story. It is this moment with no embellishment and no attachment to the details and particulars. It is this moment utterly free and illuminated in the freedom of knowing that you are the being, simple, innocent, silent being, ever present here now. There is nothing to do, nothing to understand. Where there is movement of the mind, it is just to simply be aware. Awareness of mind actually gives the confirmation that if you are aware of mind, then what you are is not the mind. If you are aware of the body, you are not the body. You are aware of the person and the story, that you are not. You are the awareness that is pure and stands alone, independent of the moving, changing. There is no way to think your way to this freedom. No way to think your way to this freedom. Even if you really think that there is no way to think your way to this freedom. It is only when the mind stops that the enlivened presence of being has the spaciousness to expand and celebrate and revel in its original essence nature. And as that spaciousness and openness of being is remembered, it is a remembering that obliterates all illusion of separation, all concepts and ideas of what awakening is, all belief in being a person. It is obliterated in a second of divine remembering that who you are is the silent being. You are not the person. You are not the story. You are not your ideas about awakening. You are not all of the knowledge, spiritual or otherwise, that has been accumulated. You are none of that. You are not your spiritual experiences that come and go. You are the changeless, choiceless, non-doing, pure awareness. This is the true nature. And it is to know this true nature that allows you to know through the intelligence of your own being what all of this is. So do not try to conceptualize what all of this is until oneness is known through the oneness of knowing. You cannot know what this is. You cannot know what this is. So let go of concepts and ideas and beliefs, things you have learned. Let it all go. Only true intelligence, true knowledge, pure intelligence, which is empty of all worldly knowledge. It is not a knowledge that has been accumulated or learned. All of that can be let go of right now. Press delete. Let it be gone. Let the burden be laid down at the feet of this moment. Pure knowledge, self-born knowledge is ever present now. Self-born knowledge is like a wellspring that bubbles up from the knowing of yourself. It is the wisdom that is plain and simple, pure intelligence, divine intelligence, and it bubbles right up from the knowing of yourself. It is not anything that has been learned. It is not. That you are not. If you are aware of it, that you are not. Anything that you are aware of, anything that is moving and changing, you are not. Of course, as these words come, you cannot hear and then believe and take on belief. It is not about that. As the words come, it is to receive the resonance. As you receive the resonance, it brings an alertness to your own presence. The resonance is the alert aliveness of your own presence. As you recognize the alert aliveness of your own presence, be only with the alertness, with the aliveness of your own presence. Be only with the alertness of the felt sense of being. Be aware of mind and movement and body and movement, but use this as the opportunity to recognize. If you are aware of it, you are not it, right? If it seems to be away from you in the distance, in time or space, you are not that. So we are clearing the field. We are clearing the falsities. We are clearing away the ideas. We are clearing away the arrogance. We are clearing away the veils that mask the truth of who you are, the truth of who you already are. The oneness of the field is ever present one, the Atman, ever the Atman, right? Never ever has this changed. Eternally, always, forever the same. You are this. This is the essence nature of all beings. And it is to come to the deep, unquestionable knowing of this being that you are. As these words come, being, do you hear these words, being? As being hears the words of being speaking, there is a resonance, and it enlivens the resonance of the being that you are, the same one being, right? Every being has the same spark inside, and as the resonance is enlivened, every being inside starts to become more alert, more enlivened, more noticing of its beingness. The beingness is the presence, the silent, still presence that is alive in the knowing of itself. So we come to this presence. We come to recognize the aliveness of this presence. It is your own presence. Is it inside? Is it outside? It is all encompassing presence. Can feel it to be inside the felt sense of what you are, and in the environment, you can feel the aliveness of this presence. It is enlivened in the hearing of itself, right? Being hears itself speaking. Seems to be like words, but it is not words. It is the dance of silence, upwelling from the spring of silence, holding the resonance that just brings the alert remembering, and the alert remembering enlivens the same being inside every being. So where you feel the enlivened presence, be with the enlivened presence. Be with yourself, just simply being. There is nothing to do, nothing needs to happen. We are just simply being here. We are inviting attention to rest. Attention naturally rests when the being hears itself and the resonance of being is enlivened. There is a naturalness that the attention turns away from the moving, changing to be with the being, because the being is so fascinated only with itself. In the silence, in the stillness. Does not matter if the juiciest thought comes in. This being only longs for itself. And when it hears the resonance of itself in the roar of silent being, it is enlivened and animated. It is drawn to itself. There is an intensity of focus upon itself because it wants all of itself. It wants to know itself. And when it feels the resonance that is itself speaking to itself, it is so pulled, so magnetically pulled to be with itself. Has nothing to do with the appearance of the worldly. It is all happening in the innermost realms of being. And in the innermost realm of your own being, as being hears itself in the finer and finer resonance of silence, can feel the enlivening of stillness, the stillness of your own presence. So the presence is alive, enlivened. The presence is enlivened, and the attention rests with the enlivened presence because it is so much more fascinating than anything that the mind can conjure. Feel your own presence. Feel the enlivened presence. Be the being. Be the simple being. If the longing is for freedom, then the longing will catch the resonance of truth, the one truth, the oneness. Concepts, beliefs, and ideas are laid to rest at the feet of now. And here there is the simple being, recognizing its own resonance of being. And in the recognition of being the being, We have journeyed as far as the mind can offer, and all doing has surrendered into being. And here in the being, it is just to be here. And the resonance of the words continue to enliven the being, to support the resting in the depths of presence, so that the aliveness of presence can expand and open and resonate more finely as the silence, as the stillness. Recognize the silent, unmoving presence that is alive in the knowing of itself. Remember, recognize the simple truth of who you are. If the mind believes the world has anything to offer, then the attention may wander towards the worldly, imagining that more accumulated experiences could be useful, but nothing can bring you to yourself but being with yourself. Recognize the silence, the source of all, where the sense of I is released from identification, and the I finds itself in the simplicity of being. It is the being itself that recognizes itself right here in the deep, still silence of being. The self itself recognizes itself deep in the innermost being. In the enlivened silence, the enlivened stillness, that which seems to have been in the background comes into the foreground. The attention that is used to identifying with phenomena, with things and experiences, the same attention rests into itself. The attention simply rests into awareness of itself. To be here with such openness, such innocence, to be here just as you are. Allow the longing, the true longing to be here, but there is nothing to do. All doing relaxes into the simplicity of being. What you can be sure of is that when there is a readiness, the being will find you. You do not have to do a thing. You do not have to understand. The being will find you. There is nothing that the me or the mind can do. Can bring you to this moment and then to be the presence, to be the simple presence, enlivening the stillness, enlivening the silence, and just to simply be here, resting in the presence of being, the presence of God, just simply being here. Just the presence is the prayer that calls the innermost being into the direct remembering. When presence is rich and full and deep, presence being present to itself, the mind quietens, attention relaxes, and eventually mind stops just for a moment, just for a magical, holy moment. And in the holy moment, the remembering, the flash of vibrant remembering that who you are in truth is who you have always been. It is not a becoming, it is just the dissolution of all the ideas and the sense of being an individual localized body dissolves into the infinite field. And as the individual point disappears into the infinite field, the knowing of yourself is remembered to be the infinite, unbounded field, the oneness. You recognize the sameness. So as these words come, you may feel the resonance of truth with some of what is spoken, where you feel the resonance of truth because it is your truth, it is the truth. Be with the resonance of truth as is recognized in your direct experience. Recognize the alertness of the presence, the stillness, the silence, the alertness of this enlivened presence of silence, of stillness. Recognize that this presence is the felt sense of yourself being here, but it has nothing to do with the mind or the body. The knowing of being here is clear. I am here, I am here, I am, I am, I am, I, I, And as you recognize this, the felt sense of what you are starts to expand into the boundless remembering that the I, the I, the I is not identified or attached to the body, is not identified or attached to thinking, that the I, the I, the I is the I don't know. I don't know. What are you? Who are you? I don't know. In the not knowing, but the simple recognition that you can feel yourself here, the I comes to the source, its own source. The I comes home to the remembering of its essence, nature, before it identified with any thought. The I without thought is just the open, pure awareness. And you are that. You are that open, pure awareness that has never attached to a thought, has never attached to body. You have always been just as you are. So you are not becoming something different or better. You are dissolving out of all of the costumes and layers and roles and stories, concepts and ideas to come back to your original simplicity, original naturalness, just as you are. Remember the boundlessness, and you are that freedom. You are not someone who is free. You are not someone. You are freedom. You are the stillness. You are the silence. You are the simplicity of being, just as you are. And the knowing is in the being, confirming the remembering in the being, nothing to do with mind, nothing to do with understanding, nothing to do with anything. Deep in the presence, deep in the presence, where presence is present to itself and rests alone in its own presence. It is emptiness, empty of experience, empty of content, simply being. And this is who you are. You are this presence. You are not the person that you have believed yourself to be. And here in the silent depths of being, the remembering is present. The being itself remembers itself right here, right now, this timeless moment. Just letting go without knowing how to let go. Be taken into the depths of the oneness, where you can feel the sameness, that the voice that is speaking and what is listening is the same. that what is speaking and what is listening is the same. Letting go and letting go, and the presence is deeper. The presence, the stillness is richer. The stillness is richer, more enlivened, so noticeable. How alive is the stillness? How alive is the presence? Could be the aliveness of silence, roaring, pulsing, humming its silent song. There is a depth of listening that is happening, that is not a listening with the ears or sense perception, but the being itself listening, receiving, openly receiving itself. And in the receiving of itself, a depth of holy nourishment, in the remembering, oh yes, this the truth, this the one, this the emptiness, this the innocence, this the pristine, immaculate being that just is, free of time and limitation, free of all concepts and experience, just as it is, just as you are, as you have ever been, ever present, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, the holy nature, the presence is the holy nature, the one that is divine, and you are wholly one with that, have never ever been apart, divided or fragmented in any way. And the knowing of this is the song of silence. That is the heart, the true heart that is infinite, unbounded, no edges, uncontained, wildly and utterly free. And in the presence of being here now, you can feel this freedom, can feel the freedom that you are. You are the freedom. You are freedom from all experience. You are freedom from mind and body right now, right now. The joyous celebration is that you have never ever been bound. You have always been free. And as freedom, you are the vast, boundless, pure awareness. You are aware of yourself. And as you are aware of yourself being here, you are aware that what you are is this vast open field. You can feel the truth of this as the resonance of yourself simply being. There are no obstacles. There is nothing to learn, no karma to resolve. You are utterly free right now. It is not a process in time. It is an immediate and spontaneous recognition of your innocence, your naturalness, your innocence, your immaculate, pristine purity. You have never, ever been anything other than this. And as these words come in the enlivening of the presence, it is to remember who you are, remember what you are. Where I don't know, the I is knowing only itself. You are not someone that has to know something. You are not someone that has to get something. It is recognizing that you have never, ever been someone, right? You will know in the clear seeing, because the laughter will take your breath away, that you cannot believe that you have been so fooled by the mind and the story. You cannot believe that you thought you were an individualized, localized point of the body. You cannot believe that you thought you were someone when you have always been a vast open field of emptiness. Remember who you are in truth, simple being. Remember your innocence. Remember your purity. Remember that you never have been attached to a name or a story. Feel the aliveness of where this remembering is already present. As these words come and the presence is enlivened, feel the resonance of remembering. Has nothing to do with mind. If the mind is confused, alleluia, this is fantastic. Let the mind be confused, because there is nothing here for the mind. All of these words are arising out of the silent source. They are moving in a flow in order to bring the enlivening of the silent being that you are inside you, the being inside you that already knows. When the being inside you that already knows receives the resonance of these words and is enlivened in the remembering, where you feel the aliveness of remembering, the aliveness of the presence, where you feel this, be with this. Let go. Do not resist anything, because what starts to happen is there is a swelling in the aliveness. It starts to get more and more alive, and it might start to feel that it will burst somehow. It can start to feel a little uncomfortable, and the me can start to feel, what do I need to do with this? Can start to almost want to get away from it. But this aliveness, this swelling of expansion is everything that you have longed for. It is the innermost being in its utter purity coming for you. It's coming for you from the inside. It's coming for you from the inside of your innermost being. And where the spark inside you that feels the resonance is resonating with the remembering, it is that the innermost being is coming for you from the inside. And as it comes for you and gets closer, you may feel more aliveness, you may feel more heat, you may feel almost like an agitation, but you will also feel a focused, intense animation that you do not want to move from this moment. You can feel before the being comes for you that this moment is more important than any moment of the human life, that this moment is the moment that eradicates all story and all illusion, all falseness. It is true existence remembering itself and enlivened in the remembering of itself. It is the bursting of the bubble. It is the end of the story of me and it is the beginning of life, eternal, remembering itself, rolling and rolling and rolling in the infinite meadows of its own luminous remembering. This is the truth of who you are. This is the truth of who you are. Silent, vast, infinite openness. There is only one. We are utterly the same in essence, nature. The simple being is one being, knowing itself, where I don't know. I is knowing itself. Nothing to do, nothing to understand, cannot succeed or fail, cannot get it right, cannot get it wrong, because it's nothing to do with the person, nothing to do with the person. All that is happening here is the flow of grace, is enlivened, illuminated, is moving within itself in the realms of innermost consciousness. Nothing to do with the worldly, nothing to do with the person. We are deep in the innermost realms of consciousness, and where you feel the resonance, the aliveness, this is where the being is being magnetically pulled into recognition, recognizing, sparking the remembering of essence nature. It is always now. This is always here, just as it is. Inside the felt sense of being, there is always this enlivened flow. There is always this illuminated, radiant heart that is the self. And it is just this constant invitation to turn towards yourself, to turn inside out, to turn around, to stop looking out there in the worldly, stop following desires, stop believing in the concepts and ideas, and simply be here. And in the simplicity of being, you are turning to the presence, remembering the presence, deepening, enlivening the presence of being. And as the presence of being enlivens, it starts to ripen in its readiness to remember itself. And this moment, every moment is here now. Every moment is the moment that the bubble just bursts and illusion is ended and all ideas of separation dissolve into the remembering of oneness, into the simplicity of being yourself. It does not matter how long you have been sitting in satsang. You could be here for many, many years. It could be the first time that you have ever sat here. It is not a process in time. It is not about maturing or ripening in time. It is about the readiness of consciousness. And we have no way of knowing that through external appearances. So let go of the concepts, let go of it all, let go of false knowledge, let go of the ignoring of yourself, ignorance, let go of thinking that you know something, arrogance, let go of it all and be here as the vast, limitless, I don't know. I don't know. Knowing nothing, the surrender, the I is unhooked from identification, and the I stands alone right here. the silence, the stillness, the enlivened presence of being, aware of the moving, changing landscape, aware of thinking, aware of all experience, aware of sense perception, and yet untouched in any way by anything is this presence of being. The recognition of this presence is presence present to itself. It is not mental, and yet it brings the mind to presence. It brings the mind to its source, brings the mind to quietness, and presence is here, and presence is present to itself, and you recognize this. You are the presence. When the words here come, you, not the someone, the person, there is not someone, there is not a person, there is no one that is separate. You, the words are speaking to you, being, you, presence, you, self, you, eternal, utter freedom, you, the one that you have always been, you, the perfect wholeness, you. Who are you? In truth, let go of the mechanism of denial that plays as someone and confess in the inner realms of being that you know yourself. You know yourself as the stillness, as the freedom. You know yourself as the simplicity, the innocence. You know yourself as the depths of silent being that never, ever change. Silence is silence, is silence. Could you be more innocent right now? Then be more innocent. Could you be more simple? Be more simple. Be more yourself. Could you relax more? Could you let go more? Could you be more present to your own presence? Letting go, softening and softening into the presence. It is to let go, free fall, and know that you will be scooped up as you free fall. You will be scooped into deep remembering in the innermost being, deeper and deeper into the silence, deeper and deeper into the silence. And as we go deeper and deeper into the silence somehow gets louder and louder and more alive as we go deeper and deeper. the mind is quieter and quieter. If there are thoughts that arise, it is just to watch them. And deepening in, falling into yourself, falling into openness, utter openness, falling open, simply being. The knowing of being is the self knowing itself, and the knowing has an aliveness that is the flow, and the flow is flowing and carrying. Where there is a knowing of the self, the carrying carries the self deeper into itself, deeper into the flow. But first the stillness, first the unmoving, unchanging stillness, first the silence of being. The openness, the emptiness, the unboundedness of your true essence nature. You are everywhere, you are nowhere, you are here, now. I, utterly free of all limitation. Nothing to do. It is the letting go of all sense of doing into being, relaxing ever deeper into where presence is present to itself, where there is the felt sense of being. Let the being focus upon the being, and let these words guide the being deeper and deeper into the resonance of simply being. The enlivened silence, the enlivened stillness, the silence itself knows the silence. You are the silence. You are the stillness. You are that which is aware of everything, shifting from the seen to the seer, the known to the knower. Here you are, aware, awareness, pure and simple, aware of all that is moving and changing, and aware of yourself simply being here. To notice that as awareness, can be like a witnessing awareness, aware of the moving, changing. But it is when awareness is aware of itself as the witness, when awareness is aware of itself as the witness, that the witness disappears and the recognition, the opening, the sense of expansion happens as awareness is aware of itself. There is an expansion into the vast, infinite spaciousness, just to notice. And in this vast, infinite spaciousness, where there is the recognition of the expansion, recognize that the expansion has no edges. It does not stop anywhere. And as this expansion opens, the felt sense of what you are is this vast open spaciousness, that the expansion is the expansion of the sense of yourself being an individual point, expanding into the infinite freedom of true nature. That in your direct experience, the knowing of this, the recognition of this, is the being, simply being itself. The recognition that you are not the person. You have never been an individual person. Now, many already know this, so it is to recognize in the remembering of the vastness, the intensity of focus in remembering, right? It's like we are reconfirming, recognizing, deepening the recognition, the remembering. Are you a separate person? Have you ever been a separate person? Does that seem preposterous? If it does, this is good. You have never ever been divided from the whole. That the felt sense of who you are is boundless, utterly free, immaculate, pristine being. You discover the source, and as the source, you simply are the silence that is the self, that is the wide open heart. The silent heart of being. Recognize your own silence, and in the recognition of your own silence, notice that you are the silence. You are the silence. You are that unmoving, unchanging, silent being that is the self, true self, one self, pure self. And the knowledge is always here now. fall back, fall in, fall deeper, fall open. Mm. The confirmation is in the being itself. Let the confirmation be the rippling revelation that just takes over. Do not resist the revelation taking over. Do not hold it together. Do not imagine anything. Let it go. Let it go. Be more free than there was ever an imagining freedom could be. Let it all go. Let the edges fall away into the boundlessness. Feel the simplicity that is pure happiness, the presence of God, holiness, right here, right now. This vast open field, the one field that is the Atman. It is the unified, vast open field that is infinite and unbounded. Everything belongs. Let the longing bring you to this all belonging to yourself. Just to keep letting go and letting go and letting go. Let all the subtle threads release and release as the being confirms more and more deeply. This is the truth of who you are. This silence, this stillness. You are the silence. You are the stillness. Have never left, have never been anything other than yourself. Remember this truth, this one simple truth. Remember. Mm. Remember that if the eyes have been closed the whole time, that at some point when there is a readiness, in your own readiness to allow the eyes to so slowly be open, but to rest absorbed. Do not grasp outwards with the gaze. Gaze into yourself. Gaze into the innermost being. Eyes can be wide open, but the gaze is utterly inwards. Total emptiness, total openness. Gaze is inward, resting absorbed in the self, not grasping outwards to look, resting absorbed, but allowing eyes to be open, just as there's a readiness. Resting, 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 falling in and falling in to the openness, seeing only yourself, gazing into the eye, into the shining, radiant heart that is yourself, gazing, gazing into the freedom that you are. As you feel the sense of resonance of being, the knowing of who you are, fall in and into the knowing, the felt sense of expansion into the unboundedness, falling in and in to the spacious expansion, falling in, letting everything, every thread surrender in, surrendering in and in and in, and being carried deeper and deeper into the not knowing. I don't know. Where I does not know, I is home in the source, in the being, where there is no knowing what I am, who I am, what this is all about. Hows and whys fall away, and here the wellspring of true knowing, true knowledge, like a dazzling light, revealing clear illumination of your own precious heart, recognition, recognizing your own precious heart of being, confirming in the heart the vastness, the radiant light that is ever, ever shining as the self that you are, ever shining, silent shining, freedom shining, the self shining, radiant, radiant in the knowing of itself. Emptiness shining, openness shining, wide open heart shining. The light of being is on, has always, always been shining this eternal light. Mm. And resting here, allowing eyes to be open or closed, and just sitting and reveling in the simplicity of being. Silence, not someone, is who you are. Mm.